Hello, this is Pastor Peter in Cassadaga, Florida. I go by Peter of Cassadaga, or just Peter. I'm here to discuss anxiety and the stresses that we have in this life on earth, and how better to cope with these in a more natural way. The Native American church I represent believes in doing things in a more natural way, but this does not mean that you should go off any anxiety medications unless you consult your healthcare provider or whoever is prescribing those medications. The reason I'm doing this talk is because many people have expressed a big benefit after receiving the talk, and I thought it would be a good time to record it, to basically save my voice and be able to distribute it to many people. You may distribute this and have others listen to it with consent. If you need consent, you can always email me at Peter@Cassadaga, which is CASSADAGA.biz. B as in boy, I, Z as in zebra. Also, if you would like to make a donation, our website is the same, Cassadaga.biz, and you should find a donate button there. However, it's not required. The participants in this talk gave me full permission to use the recording as I see fit. And one of the participants graciously recorded it on their cell phone and handed it over to me for distribution. Nevertheless, I thought I would bring you up to speed on where we were in the talk. We were talking about the voice in our head, and what I mean by that is we all have this inner voice. It's our own voice. We identify with it as ourself. An example of this would be you're driving on the road and you see a supermarket, and the voice in your head says, we need milk, eggs, and bread. A shopping list. You have this thought, it comes in. My voice speaks in English because I was taught English. I suppose if I was, not suppose, I know if I was born in Russia, the voice in my head would be Russian. So we're discussing anxiety and this voice in your head. So I will pose a question to you. If there's a voice in your head telling you a shopping list as you're driving by the supermarket, then who's listening to it? The answer would be yourself. So there are two parts to our consciousness that I see, two main parts. The voice in the head that's speaking, and the listener. Now on this particular day, when the voice says we need milk, eggs, and bread, you don't necessarily veer the car and immediately go into the shopping center and do whatever the voice says. So the listener must be in control of the car. The voice in the head is just a suggestion stating that we need milk, eggs, or bread, and the listener is the driver, and you may or may not go into the shopping center. On this particular day, you might say, I'm tired and I'm stressed, and you hit the gas and you blow right past the shopping center, and you say you get it tomorrow. This is a normal balance between the voice and the listener making the decisions. So with all of that, that will bring you up to speed, and with no further ado, I'll send you to the discussion. Thank you, and hope you have a wonderful experience with this.
You got it? Perfect. Put it up here on the desk. Thanks. So So we're talking about the voice and the listener, and the supermarket example is the voice says, we need milk, eggs, and bread. And the listener is driving the car, and the listener is in control, the driver. So when the voice says, we need milk, eggs, and bread, the driver on this particular day doesn't go into the shopping center. The driver listens to the voice, the listener's in control. And the listener is saying, no, I'm tired today, and they hit the gas, they blow right past the store, and go to bed early because they're tired and stressed. So this is an example of the listener being in control. But sometimes the voice in the head is in control. Sometimes the voice in the head is constantly going. It's almost like a snowball rolling down a hill. And a lot of times this voice could be in fear, in negativity, in stress, in pain, in hurt. And so then instead of you driving the car, the voice becomes in control. And the voice is like pounding on your head. You know, as I'm slapping my head, it's like this voice constantly nagging you in fear. You know, oh, I lost my job, and how am I going to pay the mortgage, and oh my God, my wife is sick, and this one is that, and my son needs his wisdom teeth pulled, and my daughter needs this, and now you have this voice pounding on you, and it's like having someone behind you constantly nagging at you. You know, when someone nags at you, and it's just like, oh, go away. So this voice is constantly pounding on us about our problems and worries and troubles. And so I'll give you an example of this. We'll take a random person. I'm going to make up a person, and this person's laying in bed all night. The alarm clock goes off. They hit the snooze. They hit it again. They finally wake up, and the first voice in their head is, I hate my boss. The next voice in the head might be, I hate my job. The next voice in the head might be, I'm going to take the day off and call in sick. And then the next voice might be, if you call in sick, you might get fired. You already took a lot of days off. And then if you get fired, you won't get paid. And it's hard to find a job. You know, we're in a recession. And what are you going to do if you can't find a job? And then if you can't find a job, then we'll lose the house. And then next thing you know, the voice in your head has snowballed all the way into, I'm homeless, me and my family are living in a Maytag box under the highway, and we're eating cat food, and my kids are cold and hungry, and so this voice is pounding all that. So the voice, you know, tends to make a mountain out of a molehill. So, you know, the voice started when this person woke up and said, I hate my boss, and then the voice snowballed all the way till I'm homeless and my children are hungry and
living in a box.
Living in a box under the highway. So this is what the voice does. It's in control now. So now the listener, instead of driving the car, to use an analogy, the listener is like locked in the backseat of the taxi, and the voice is going down the wrong way, going through red lights, going down the highway in the wrong direction, and everything's crazy, and you're not in control anymore, so you're like locked in the back seat screaming, oh my God, we're all gonna die! And this is why we get anxious, because we don't feel like we're in control anymore, because we are not. The voice is in control.
Yeah.
So, you know, how I discovered about this is about 15 years ago. I got divorced after 20 years. I had the kids. I had my computer consulting company. I was very successful. And we were doing a conversion of a medical facility. We had to put all new equipment there. And at this time in my life, I was pretty disenchanted with my company. That's a whole other backstory, but I wasn't putting in the effort like I did. So we had like 5 employees, and all of us were there putting new technology in, and we had to test it and make sure it was all HIPAA compliant. And that Monday morning, you know, when they turned that key and opened that door, that everything would be good. So I was up 30 hours straight, and I get home and I sit in this chair and I'm on my computer and I'm writing an outline, because the next morning I promised this Christian church in Orlando that I would do an angel talk. So I had this commitment. 30 hours no sleep. I was okay, so I just started at my computer typing. All of a sudden, I couldn't breathe. I couldn't catch my breath. I started shaking. I couldn't type anymore, and I thought, oh my God, what's the matter with me? And the voice in my head says, you could be having a heart attack. You better call 911. So I picked up my phone, I dialed 911, and I started shaking. And back then it was the red send button, and I had my thumb on that button thinking, am I really having a heart attack? Wait a minute, I'm too young to have a heart attack. I'm only 42 years old. And then the voice in my head said, well, you could be having a heart attack. This Olympic runner had a heart attack when he was 22. You're not too young to have a heart attack. This could really be happening. And then I said, well, maybe I had food poisoning. I never had that before. I heard that's pretty bad. Then the voice said, no, you didn't eat yesterday. You probably don't have food poisoning. You might be having this heart attack. You better call 911 before your daughter finds you on the floor dead. And then the voice said, does she know where the will is? And the moment the voice said, does she know where the will is? I woke up out of the back seat, because I wasn't driving anymore. The voice was driving. It was pounding on me. You're having a heart attack. You're going to die. Does she know where the will is? And then all of a sudden, it was like I woke up out of the back seat and went, I'm dying? Question mark? And it was the first time in my life that I looked at the voice in my head and realized that I had a voice in my head, and I said, oh my God, I'm 42 years old and I have this voice in my head that's driving me crazy. It was this epiphany. It was really something serious, like all of a sudden. And then when I looked at the voice, it was the first time I looked at my voice and it hid and shut up. It was almost as if it was speaking and telling me I was dying, and does she know where the will is? And when I looked at it and questioned it and said I'm dying, it went, oh shit, the jig is up. He's consciously aware of me. And it hid and like went down into my stomach. And all of a sudden, the voice shut up and there was a calmness. That I caught my breath and I was like, oh my God, there's a voice driving me crazy. And then my heart started returning to normal. I stopped shaking. And I got back in the driver's seat. Now Peter's in control. And I was like, oh my God, there's a voice in my head. So I was never aware of it. Maybe I was subconsciously aware of it, but I was never completely aware of it. So this was the day I became aware. So Jesus and Buddha said, know thyself, know thyself. I always wondered what the hell they meant by know thyself. Well, this is what they meant. They meant know the voice in your head and know what it's saying about everything in your world, because the voice is always judging everyone on the outside. He did this to me, she did that, my boss sucks, and this is that, and why this, and why that, and it's always looking on the outside and judging everything and everyone around you, but it never looks at itself. So when I looked at it, it scared the shit out of it. Oh my God, someone's looking at me.
I'm going to have to answer with something.
Yeah.
Then I said to myself, wait a minute, I've seen this before. I'm not having a heart attack, I'm having a panic attack. I had a friend that had a panic attack. We had to call the ambulance for him. I remember how he was breathing in a paper bag until the ambulance came, and how we were trying to calm him down. I thought, wow, this isn't a heart attack, it's a panic attack.
So when I got in control, I said, now I'm still in control, the voice is not pounding. And I said to myself, what was the voice saying 5 minutes ago? Let's rewind this movie of my life and see how I got in this condition. So remember, I was doing an angel talk. I was really tired, but felt okay. And I said, it wasn't until I sat in the chair and worked on this project. So what was the voice saying? So I rewind the movie of my life, and this is what the voice was saying. You should have started this a week ago. There isn't enough time. It's a big congregation. And if you stay up all night, then you'll be 40 hours no sleep, and then you'll be stumbling on your words. You'll be too tired to present it, and it's pounding. It's pounding on my head.
Yeah, snowballing.
Snowballing.
Yeah, getting bigger and bigger.
So it was saying it's a big congregation, hundreds of people. So I rewound this movie, and the voice even showed me a video. Not only is it audible, but it's a video as well. It showed hundreds of people in this big congregation with their hand over their mouth, talking under their breath to their neighbor, who is this fool up here, you know. So it's a fear. I'm in fear of being ridiculed by my peers, hundreds of people. I'm too tired to present it. There isn't enough time. Negative, negative, negative Nancy is out, and she's in full force pounding on my head.
Yeah.
So when I got in control, I was like, wait a minute, I'm a good speaker. All these angel encounters happen to me in real life. What's to study for? So I imagined a new thing. The listener who's now driving, imagine someone pushing me up on the podium, and I said to myself, if someone pushed me up on the podium right now, I can speak for 2 hours about angels. They're all personal experiences. What's to study for?
Go to sleep.
Yeah, go to sleep.
So I said, all I have to do is go to the Bible. It's a Christian church. I need the Bible. So they got angel stories in the Bible. So I'm going to compare the old angel stories to my modern angel stories and tell the people the angels haven't left. Let me show you how. So I knew the stories, but I didn't know the chapters and verses. And I said to myself, now the listener's in control. We got a handle. We're not being pounded. And I realized like 80% of my brain power was going toward worrying about getting it done rather than getting it even done. So once I got composure and I was thinking clearly, I got a program on my computer. I can scan the Bible. Every sentence where angel and messenger appear, I can scan the Bible and find those chapters and verses. I turned the radio on. I was actually singing, feeling good. Jotted down my chapters and verses, and I said, I'll compare this story with that one from the Bible, this angel, they're similar, similar, similar. I got done within an hour. I got to bed about 12:30, woke up early, drove to Orlando. I got a standing ovation. So why would this voice in my head try to undermine its own self? That was my big question. Why would it do this? Why is it doing this to us?
Yeah, self-sabotage.
Self-sabotage.
Yeah.
So in sports, it's like being psyched out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Doubt, fear, pain, fear, 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 fear of being judged by my peers. And in business, Peter's always prepared. Peter has everyone's work laid out. We know what everyone's doing. So Peter has like a fear of not being prepared, not just being ridiculed, but that as well. Because the voice is saying there isn't enough, it's like an impossible to complete, is what the voice is saying.
Yeah.
Like once I got in control, I completed it in an hour. You know?
Yeah.
So the doom and gloom went away. So after I got the standing ovation, I said to the people in the church, I would like 10, 15 more minutes of your time. Something happened to me while I was preparing for this lecture, and they said, okay, we'll give you the time. And I said, something spiritual happened during this event. And I explained everything about the voice in the head and the dying and how I got back in control and the driver and the voice and the listener, and told them everything honestly. I exposed myself, my personal life, to make a point. And I said to the people in the church, it's in the Bible as well, what I experienced, not just the angels, but what I'm talking about is in the Bible, and I never figured it out until this incident happened. So I feel like even though I didn't have an angel encounter, I feel like something made this happen. God made it happen, or the angels made it happen to me, so I can tell you today. And I said, Jesus said it best, know thyself. Jesus said, be like the birds in the trees, because the birds in the trees, when they lay down at night, they're not going, oh my God, Harry, do you think there'll be seed? We might starve. I can't sleep because maybe we'll starve. You know? and the flowers in the fields, Jesus gave an analogy of the flowers in the fields, that they're going, oh God, please send rain. If you don't send rain, we're going to wither and die. And he talks about this flower that got caught in the crack in a rock. The seed got caught in the crack, and the roots are tight, and it's the shady side of the mountain, and the flower doesn't have any sun, and not even enough sun to bloom a flower, and it's cold and it's dry. And you know, he talks about the flower being jealous of the other flowers. They're in the fertile field. Look at them, they're in the fertile field, and they got the moisture and the water. And why me? You know how we why me us. Why me, God? Why is this happening? Why did I be the seed that got caught in the crack, and my roots are dry and tight, and woe is me? And envy. Look at the other flowers. They got it so good. Why me? Why? Pounding away. So he said, know thyself. And what he meant was, know what the voice in your head is saying about all the world around you. Not that these problems aren't real. I still don't have a job, or I still have a broken van, or whatever it may be. But the voice in the head is going to have you snowball into from a little molehill to a mountain. And so I told them, I'd like you to put an invisible net in your head. What we think is what we create, so I want you to create an invisible net, and what the job of the net is one thing only, a very simple rule. The rule to the net is, when I don't feel well emotionally, check the voice in my head and see what it's saying. So the net catches the voice. It's like me when I rewound my movie.
Yeah.
Catch. So the rule to the net, once again, is when I don't feel well, I feel stressed, overwhelmed, anxious, panicked, whatever it may be, I'm in fear, because the voice is always fear and doubt. Just like the lady, when we did the spell to cast out the demon, she looked up at the ceiling and went, do you think it's gone? How powerful do you think that spell is? We just put some doubt in what we were trying to get out of your house. So that's doubt. It destroys everything. It's like having the angel and the devil.
Quick too, yeah.
You know, the angel and the devil. On one side is the devil. On the right side is the angel always, and the left side is the devil. And the devil's always beating the shit out of the angel, right? Like in the cartoons.
Yeah.
So look at the cross. The symbolism of the cross. It's the right and the left. The good and the evil. That's what Jesus' symbol. And the center is to be in balanced. To achieve balance. I know I have an evil voice in my head, but I'm in balance with it.
Nice.
So we come to this earth in duality. The good and the bad, the dark and the light, the hot and the cold, the male and the female. Everything is duality, opposites. So Jesus in the cross is signifying that we understand that there are opposites in this world. Judas, who turned him in, and Jesus, and blah, blah, blah. The good and the evil, the dark and the light, the cold and the hot. So that's what he's symbolizing there, and he's in the center balancing it. Father, forgive them, they don't know not what they do.
Yeah.
Someone had to be the villain. Someone had to be Jesus. That this religion would have never been created if it wasn't for Judas turning him in for 40 pieces of silver. So that's why Jesus was like, forgive them, they know not what they do. I'm in balance with the negative and the positive, in the dark and the light. I understand it. So when he ascended, he broke free of the duality of the world. That's what Buddha did. He broke free of the duality of the world. You know, Buddha always said, be in the now, be in the now. Don't be your past, and don't look too far ahead to the present. So the past would be like, my mother beat me, my dad did this, someone raped me, someone did this, someone did that. I'm all messed up this way because of all these things in my past. So Buddha said, don't be your past, and don't always, to me, I'm always looking for the future, out to the future. If I do this, what's going to happen? If I do that, what's going to happen? If I take this maneuver or I make this decision, what's the outcome? And the voice is always analyzing the outcome. If you do this, this could happen. If you do that, if you buy the new car, you might be able to,
Yeah.
if you buy the new car, you might not make the payments, or, you know, like buyer's remorse. After you get it home, you're like, oh shit, what did I do? You know, so you create this thing where you can't afford the car because you keep saying, I can't afford this, and therefore you don't.
You think you're being realistic, but yet you're being negative.
Yeah.
You
Sabotaging
think it's the
yourself.
logic in it.
Yeah.
You're not. Yeah.
You're self-sabotaging.
Kind of, yeah. So, you know, this is what he said. He said, become enlightened. Buddha said to become enlightened. Jesus said to have awareness, to be self-aware of what this voice is doing to you on a daily basis, pounding away. It's like having an old woman follow you all over, nagging you. Oh my God. Did you ever have people, they call you up with their problems and they're like, oh, and you just feel the energy like leaving your body,
I've worked with one
you
like
know?
that.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's like,
Yeah, it drains you.
drains you,
Yeah.
you know? So, we have to become cognizant and aware of the negative energy and what the voice is saying. So, after the talk, this man came up to me. He was probably like in his late 50s or 60s. And he says to me, oh my God, he says, I've been going to therapists and psychiatrists for 30 years and they give me these pills. And all they're doing is trimming the bush of anxiety. He said, today you showed me the root. He said, none of these professional people ever told me I had a voice in the head causing my anxiety. He goes, I can't tell you how many professionals I've been to, but they've never mentioned the voice in my head pounding on me. He says, you're exactly right. He says, this is easy. He says, now you made it so simple. They made everything so complex.
Yeah.
And he says, now I know the function of it, how it operates. Once you understand something, you can get rid of it. So he said, you showed me the root. He says, now I can pull it out. He called me several months later. He told me he was off his medications, and he says, keep preaching this because you're saving the world.
Yeah,
I
it
said,
is being made.
yeah.
Yeah. It's true. That's what they do. They
It
just
is.
feed
They
you
just keep
medication.
medication just to keep
Yeah.
you in that cycle.
Just like trimming the bush.
Yeah.
Cutting it down, but it never dies.
That's what it is. It all starts with a voice in your head. It does.
Isn't that so simple?
Yeah.
And then you think you need the medication to keep you sane.
The medication just shuts the voice off and makes you not give a care.
Right. Yeah. You're just
Yeah.
numb to it.
Yeah, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
But
Just
you
take
don't,
another
fix, you
pill.
don't fix the problem.
Not
with
at
that.
Got it all, okay.
Yeah. Exactly.
Whatever.
Instead of shutting
Okay.
it up.
It's true.
Right, so you just don't care.
Yeah.
You're all relaxed, you're volumed out. Whatever, okay, yeah.
Numb.
I'm
Yeah.
numb. So we become numb. And walking around the world numb is not a good thing. I'd rather walk around enlightened to
Yeah.
know myself, know my function, know that when this voice starts in, I can look at it anytime, question it, and shut it up.
Yeah. Have
Get
control.
back in the driver's seat. So I gave them 2 tools that day. One was the net. Once again, when I feel anxious, check the net, see what it has inside. See what negativity it's bringing to you and how it's putting fear and pain into your life. Once again, these problems are real. My fan is still broke, but there might be a more positive thing.
Absolutely. Oh yeah.
So, or I might not have a job today, but there's hope, and I'll just keep going, and I'll keep applying.
That's it.
And
Tomorrow's a new day, and you never know what it's going to bring.
right.
Yeah.
So, all of this. So, the other thing, so I told you I'd give you 2 tools to fix the voice
Mm-hmm.
and the anxiety. So the second tool, we're just going to need a little bit of silence. So I'm just going to shut these things off for a minute.
You take all this in, you're a very smart young man.
Right.
Because you're getting a lot of information.
Yeah.
For a
Young
young
age,
man, you're
yeah.
getting very enlightened.
You really are.
Yeah.
I wish
You won't have to
so-and-so
deal
be
with
this
all
way
this
at
stuff.
13.
Right.
Yeah. So just keep paying
Getting the tools you
attention.
need in your
Yeah.
toolbox to
Yeah. So
do
just
what
keep
needs to be done.
paying attention, Sean. All right. So the voice in our head doesn't want us to know this. It's going to try to repel it as much as possible because it's in control. It doesn't like me telling you this at all. It doesn't want to be found out. It doesn't want you to go, hey, the jig is up, I'm in control. So it doesn't like it at all. So it's okay, it's all good. So I'd like you to, all of you seen like a aura photography where they have this camera and they take a picture of you and it shows your life force. Just like I move the rod with my energy, that life force is visually now on a picture. And they did studies. They developed this camera back in the 70s and they realized that the human body had an electromagnetic field around it. So let's say your body's electrical. It has a lot of energy. Remember I said there was 18 photons in every particle of DNA?
Yeah.
Did you ever hear those people, they self-combust?
Yeah.
Isn't
Yeah.
that
Something?
So, yeah. So that's how much energy is in the human body.
Yeah.
And all the electrical impulses to, lift a weight or a heavy object.
The adrenaline.
The adrenaline, and then think about how much electricity goes into, when a child is trapped under the car, and the woman has super strength, she can lift the car and unpry the baby, So this is how much electrical power we have. So, today, this modern age, we can find the wires in the wall. Because the wires are carrying the current, but there's also a static field around the wire, around the insulation, where it goes right through the wall. And we could say, oh yeah, don't put a nail here, there's a cable in the wall. So this is the same principle with this meter. They were measuring the voltage around the human body, and they were like, hey, it's 300 volts. 300 volts. And so...
That's a lot.
that's like the static they were measuring. And so they were like, well, it's nice to measure it on a meter. And then when people died, they did the meter and there was no electromagnetic field. Or if there was, when someone first died, it was like very weak. It was like significantly less. But as things died off, the field would disappear. So they were doing this study, and then they developed the camera, and the camera would take a picture of your aura. And then if they made someone emotional or angry, the field, the picture would have changed to a color red from if you were calm, meditative. You would have a field of energy out of the body. It would be very strong, but it would be like a blue, more calm. If you got someone angry, it would go really red and large. And so they were doing the studies on emotions and energy. And, when we did that spell today to protect you against negative, that this person put a spell on you, Beth, and all this crazy stuff started happening in your life. So when we, sent that energy back out and returned it to that person, that was that field we were doing. And what moved the dowsing rod. So the same kind of principle, whether we're measuring with a meter or a dowsing rod or now a camera that measures your aura, your life force. So then they started taking pictures of plants and trees and dogs and animals, and everything that was alive had this life force around it. Kind of like a god.
Yeah.
In Star Wars, they would call it the Force, and this culture here, we would call it energy
Yeah.
scientifically, but it's energy with consciousness. It's not just energy, there's a consciousness in it. So when you die, you go to heaven. Your consciousness goes there.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So then they did another. Then they started taking pictures of dead trees and dead animals and dead people, and they didn't have an aura. So one day they took a picture of a man, and he didn't have a right arm. It was blown off in the war or something. Took a picture of him, and to their surprise, there was an arm there. There was a ghost of an arm. It was attached to the shoulder. It was in perfect proportions. The fingers were there, the elbow. And they go, oh my God, like, even though his arm's missing, there's a ghost of an arm there. So they call that the phantom limb. You've heard of that? Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
So many people that have limbs amputated, they feel like they still have the leg. They go to scratch it and they forget. Well, this guy said, no wonder. He said, for 20 years, I still reach for a glass of water with the right hand, and I feel like it's there, and sometimes I want to itch it, and then I reach for something with my right, I forget, and then for 20 years, I've been taking the glass with the left hand, but every once in a while, I forget, and I keep thinking it's there. No wonder I feel it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So the energy of it is still there,
Yes.
even though it's not in the physical form.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So, you know how when they cut a tail of a lizard, the tail grows back?
Yeah.
Well, they did a study. They cut the lizard's tail. It still had the aura, the ghost of the tail. They watched it for several months as the tail grew back, and they always wondered, how does the tail grow back perfect? Well, what they found out was the cells were using
Memory.
the ghost of the spirit, the aura of the tail was still there. They were using that as a mold
Yeah.
to grow the
Huh.
tail back.
Oh,
They
that's
thought it was
That's wild.
very
Yeah, it is.
interesting, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Then they did another study, and they took dead people. I mean, people that were alive that were on their deathbed, and they lined the bed with plastic, and they put a scale underneath. And everyone that died lost 2.5 ounces of weight, no matter how
I
big
heard
or
about
that.
that.
Right.
Yeah.
So
That's their spirit.
their spirit leaving their body, it had a certain
Yeah.
amount of weight to it.
Yeah.
And the aura would not be there anymore. So, they say, oh, the energy left you. In religion, we say your spirit left.
Yeah,
Right.
It is energy, but it's with consciousness. They
Right.
think like, well, you didn't carry your consciousness with you. It's just energy,
That's it.
So, so you die and go to heaven, right? Go to the afterlife, whatever you believe. So energy cannot be created or destroyed, like I keep saying. It transforms. So you transform. You leave the body, but you keep living. You're immortal. You're God, your energy, you live forever. So with all this in mind is how I'm going to show you the second key. That we're all energy, that there's all a spirit in our body, and it's called like the God self. And we're not separate from it as we're taught in religion. We have God dwelling within us. And as I said, we have the power of God within us, and that's how Jesus did all the miracles. And after Jesus left, the apostles did all the miracles too. So Jesus said all these things. He said, don't pray to me, pray to the Father. Everyone's praying to Jesus, though. Jesus, come fix this, come fix that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Jesus is like Big Brother. Fight your fights in the schoolyard. Well, one day Jesus isn't going to be there for you. Even though they say God answers your prayers, you're not going to learn if everything's given to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything is, it's almost like when you leave spirit realm and you come to earth, it's like going to school. Mama doesn't go on the school bus with you to kindergarten, like, here you go. You're on your own.
Yeah.
Right. So there is some help from God, of course. People get healed. Angels come. Different things happen to us to help us in certain ways. Synchronicities come in life. That's God. And so all these things. So I'm going to show you who you truly are, that you're not the voice in your head. You're not what you've been told. You are. I'm not Peter. No, I'm more than Peter. I'm a spiritual, powerful being. I'm more than Peter. Peter is the voice in my head that believes I'm Peter, that I believes I'm separate from this power, but I'm not. I'm not Peter. Peter is something that my parents created. They named me Peter, and then they programmed me like a robot, and my whole environment programmed me. I mean, I speak English, and I have a certain culture, and I was raised Catholic, and all these things, and I was told that I was Peter, and I kept believing that I'm Peter. However, I'm not. Peter's a vessel that I'm going to school in. My spirit's learning from Peter, but I'm not Peter. Peter is a vessel that my spirit is learning, because if I'm going to be an angel, or if there are angels, I guess, as I said before, in order to become an angel, a guardian angel, I guess you would have to be human. How are you going to help cold and hungry if you don't know what cold and hungry feels like? If you've never been human before, I don't see how an angel could possibly help a human, I mean, I guess they can give you a textbook on what human is like.
Right.
Can't
It's
learn
not
it
the same.
It's not the same, yeah. If you never had a body, you see someone shivering in an alley, doing this motion of shivering, you go in the book.
How's that feel?
Oh, it means they're cold. So,
Exactly.
in order to become an angel, it's like progression, first grade, second grade, third grade, third dimension, fourth dimension, fifth dimension. Even in the Bible, it says there's 7 levels to heaven. So which one are you going to, right?
Yeah.
So dimensions in science, heavenly realms in religion. It sounds the same to me. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. It transforms in science, and in religion, you're God and you live forever. Energy cannot be destroyed. Your energy lives on. It leaves your body and transforms into something else. So it makes all sense to me.
Yeah.
Being a scientist and the science background, the spirituality makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Dimensions, heavenly realms, it's the same. It's the same.
Absolutely.
Just speaking a different language and having a different conclusion.
Yeah.
But it's all the same stuff.
Going through the experiences we have with the house and everything, having our eyes opened up to all the different things, the different realms. Yeah, it makes you open up and realize there's so much more
than the physical.
And I've always been thinking now, your inner spirit, you feed that. So when that leaves you, that's what you're going to be at wherever in that form. You're going to have that.
Yes.
You got to be able to feed that.
We were
Either
actually
you're going to feed it negative or positive, and that's what you're going to carry on too.
Right.
Yeah.
Are you a positive spirit or a negative spirit?
Yeah, right.
But we were talking about how this experience of living in the house that we're living in, it's actually been almost a blessing.
Yeah.
Because it taught you so much.
Yeah. Because there's people out there that walk around oblivious, so don't have a clue.
Right.
We were thinking that they only know
We thought
half
it
of
was
the
a
world.
curse, but it's not really a curse.
They only
It's
know half
actually a
of life.
blessing.
They only know half of life, and
Because
there's like a whole other life
we've
out
seen
there.
that.
You lived in a haunted house.
Yeah.
Yeah. Big time.
Yeah.
Big time, man.
Right. So you've seen, some of the kind of the fourth dimension happening.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's real.
So and science, as I said before, says we see less than 5% of what is 5% of the physical realm. 95% of the 5% is the physical. There's 95% invisible.
That's a lot. That's substantial, man.
That's a substantial amount.
Yeah, we're seeing like less than 5% of what exists.
That's crazy.
So, I mean, just think of even the physical realm, things that you don't even see. You don't see radio waves, you don't see the air in front of you, you don't see x-rays.
Right.
Back in, in the day, before we invented a microscope, like right now there's bacteria on my desk. My eye can't zoom to 1000x and see the bacteria. I mean, through evolution, my eyes could be built that way to look at bacteria on my desk. There's no reason why you couldn't develop a human eye to do that. but that's not how we're built.
Well,
To
thank
see
God for our
bacteria.
OCD, right?
Right?
We would be
So, you know,
frantic.
they never knew why people got sick until they got a microscope and said,
Right.
oh, look, there's these microorganisms that are in your body that make you sick, a virus or whatever.
Right.
So now that we understand this, so with seeing a little more of the physical, we now understand bacteria, we have microbiology.
Right.
So all this equipment that we built, you know, electron microscopes and powerful telescopes to see out into the universe. We understand what nebulas are. We understand that
Right.
there's a field in the universe that's birthing stars, like new stars are forming, and we're understanding more and more of the world around us, but with our regular human senses, we don't perceive that. So we only see
Yeah.
less than 5%.
That's
Right.
We
crazy.
blow a dog whistle, human can't hear it, but the dog comes running. So, you know, all of these things are invisible, or our senses cannot perceive them.
Mm.
So the spirit realm, you know, me being a medium, maybe I'm seeing 5.1% than most, like a little
Right.
0.1 extra.
Right. Right.
So, you know, with all this in mind, that we're energy, okay? And we've been programmed to believe we're this personality or this name, right? And you got your mom here,
Yeah.
right? So she gave birth to you, right? So she remembers that, you know? So we're going to ask her some questions about John's birth. Nothing personal, though. But anyway, so with all this in mind, your energy that cannot be created or destroyed, we'll call it your Holy Spirit, your life force. In science, they'll call it your electromagnetic field, okay? So with all this in mind, I'd like everyone to put their hand out like this. This is the second key now. And I'd like you to focus all your attention on your hand. Now close your eyes. I'll ask you a question. Is your hand still there?
Yes.
Yes.
How do you know it?
I can feel it.
Good. I can see it.
Okay. Besides the weight of your hand, if you focus on your palm and fingers, do you feel that there's life in your hand?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, the cells are changing. There's a whole universe in your hand operating without your brain. If I cut my brain off and they fed it blood and oxygen and nutrients, my body would still change cells and do things without my brain, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so keep your eyes closed, but you can put your hand down. Like even after death, even after weeks after death, the nails grow, they say, and so there's still life in the body a little while after the brain is shut off. So, you know, they say the brain dies in 5 minutes, so why is the skin still replicating and cells still changing even if you're dead? Your brain's been dead a day now. It's not instructing your body to do this cell changing and splitting, and so there's a whole universe of life in your hand. It's almost like a dimension within a dimension.
Hmm.
So now I'd like you to feel the life force in your body. Not just your hand, but feeling the life in and around your body. Now I'd like you to go to your lungs. I'd like you to feel the life force moving in and out of your lungs as you breathe. Focusing all your attention on the life force moving in and out of your lungs. Now I'm going to add something to this. Every time you have a voice in your head or a thought, I'd like you to focus away from the voice, back to feeling the life in your lungs as you breathe. Don't try to fight the voice, it's a losing battle. Don't try to fight it to get it to shut up. Let it speak. Let it have its thoughts. Just focus away from it and put all your concentration away from the voice, back to feeling the life in your lungs. Only that. Once again, don't fight with the voice. It's not a battle. Just focus away, feeling only the life in your lungs. You're trying to get a moment, even a couple of seconds, where there's no voice speaking. Okay, you can open your eyes now.
That was relaxing,
Oh, wasn't
It
it?
was.
Nice. I was
Yeah.
doing it with you because I love doing it. So how did that
It was
feel?
really, it was really, it
Wow.
was good. I
Yeah.
felt connected where I could feel.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I could, yeah.
So what you felt was who
Feel
you
it.
truly are. You're not the voice in your head. Did you have a few moments when there was no voice? A few
Yeah.
seconds or
It was
Yeah.
just
so?
like calm.
Mhm.
Yeah. So you went on vacation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Away from
really.
vacation from the nagging voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's in fear and trouble and worry and all this garbage.
Yeah.
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 First
Yeah.
I've ever been able to shut it out.
I know, me too. My brain just never stops.
No, mine doesn't either.
Mhm. So that's
Yeah.
what Jesus said. Know thyself, know who you truly are, right?
That's cool.
Wow.
You're not the
There you
voice
go.
in your head.
Yeah.
So,
And it's like you said, it's a battlefield, but you're always on the losing end of it.
yeah, the
Or you
voice
feel
never
like you're
shuts
always
up.
on the
Yeah.
losing end of it.
Wears you down.
That's why you get
That's what I go
anxious.
through. Yeah.
That's why you panic.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, man.
So,
like you can't breathe, like you're being suffocated.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so overwhelmed, yeah.
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 So, your mom's here, and so, you know, when John came out,
Mhm.
before you pointed to him, said, we're going to name him John, and before the birth certificate got filled out, who were you, John? You weren't John yet.
No.
You were you, though.
Yeah, it was me, but I wasn't John.
You weren't
Yeah.
John, and so
Yeah.
your parents didn't put a label on you yet,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So then they filled out the birth certificate, and you got the name John, and then they put it on that transparent plastic bin, you know, where they put the babies, and then
Incubator thing.
yeah, and then they
Yeah.
all your relatives came and they looked through the glass and they're like, oh yeah, there's John, isn't he cute? So, you know, whether I don't know if he was sucking his thumb when he came out or he was crying. You know, some babies suck their thumb, they're quiet, some cry. But no matter what, you weren't John yet at that point.
Mm.
So who were you?
Me.
What does that mean? Who were you?
Yeah. Spirit.
You were a spirit in a body
Yeah.
that hadn't been programmed yet.
Mhm.
So then they took you home, and then they said, your name's John. They kept referring to you as John. And then you found out, oh, my name's John.
Mhm.
And then they taught you all these things, right? So I want to ask all of you, when you were a month old, did you have a voice in your head?
I wouldn't know.
You
I don't
don't
I
remember?
don't know.
Don't remember.
Don't remember. Well, let's look at it logically. If we were all born in Russia, the voice in our head would be Russian, right?
I
Since we're
guess.
born here, our parents taught us English, right?
Right.
Mm.
Does your voice in your head say
Yellow.
yellow, leche, you know, does it speak in Spanish or is it
Right.
milk, bread?
Mhm.
You know, pan is
Bread.
bread in Spanish, so
Like,
leche, pan, eggs are huevos. So your voice isn't going huevos, leche, pan.
Right.
It's going milk, eggs, bread.
Right.
Right. So Our voice speaks in English. So if we were raised in Russian, our voice would be in Russian, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So the voice in the head is the language you were taught. Okay, did any of us know the English language at a month old?
No.
No.
Okay, so logically you couldn't have had a voice in your head,
Right, because it wasn't
Huh.
speaking.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So when you were a baby, you just cried for milk or cried to get that was your only form of communication,
Right.
cry.
Right.
You know, you
Yeah.
weren't 1 month old going, I hope mom went to the store and got the formula, I'm getting hungry, you know,
Right.
right?
Right.
It's the
And even if you talk to the baby and go, what's the matter, you know, they just cry.
Mm-hmm.
right.
You know, they don't understand what you're saying to them.
Mm-hmm.
So at 6 months old, we didn't have a voice in our head either. At a year, maybe it started to develop in its infancy of a voice.
Mhm.
So we were here a whole year on this planet, in this body and in spirit in a body, for a whole year or more without a voice in our head.
Mm.
But now we believe that we are this. So your parents said, you know, this is our culture, and this is how we cook, and these are our traditions, and this is how we behave. What society taught you was normal behavior and not normal behavior, and if John was running around the classroom screaming, they taught him it's not normal behavior, and now you're going to have to stand against the wall and quiet, or whatever it may have been. And they taught us what was normal, what was not. We had to fit in this box of what society and our parents and our religion taught us. If you go outside this box, you know, you're going to jail,
There's
or you're in the
consequences.
mental hospital,
Right.
or you're
Yeah.
not behaving properly, you go to detention, you get punished.
Mm-hmm.
You, in religion, if you do all these things, you go to hell. So it's all this fear.
Yeah.
And this is how the voice
Yeah.
develops. And then one day you reach for the stove and they slap your wrist, that's hot, and you learn the stove's hot. Don't touch that without mittens or something.
Mhm.
And then you get taught by your peers and by your teachers, and then you go on your first date, and then you learn this and you do that, and all your surroundings keep telling your John, this is your religion, this is your culture, these are the do's and don'ts in life. But I'm here to say that's not who you are. You just felt who you really were. You're not the voice in your head.
Right.
You're not John. I'm not Peter. So we're not this thing. But the voice keeps reminding us that that's who we are. The voice doesn't want you to know who you are because it wants to be in control.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
the head honcho. It's the ego, the it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I call it the it.
Right.
It.
Right? Yeah.
Like Stephen King, the
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Beep, beep, Richie.
Right.
Wow. Yeah.
So
that's
so
right on, man.
so again, you know, we go back to the question of why would it beat its own self up? Why would it sabotage me going to the church that day? Why did it almost send me to the hospital with a heart attack? Why all this negative talk? Well, I have the answer. And the answer is that while it's here, it wants to be the head honcho. While it's here, it knows it's only here for 70, 80 years, so it was created and it knows it's going to die one day. Because you're going to die and go to heaven, hopefully, or whatever that is, whatever you believe, you're going to go there. And you're going to have the family reunion and see all the other relatives and the loved ones that have passed away, and you're going to see your best friend and all whoever died before you. But when the party's over, you're going to continue on and become something else, maybe an angel, maybe a this, maybe a that. You're certainly not going to sit on a cloud and pluck a harp for all of eternity. Man, eternity's a long-ass time, all of eternity.
True.
So you're going to do things. Your energy that cannot be created or destroyed. Maybe you'll become an angel. Maybe you become a spirit guide. Maybe you reincarnate and come back to Earth. I know there's a lot of people who don't believe in that. But I do.
I do.
I do too.
I
I find it in the Bible. It's very evident.
It says it a lot in the Bible. Yeah.
It's very evident in the Bible.
Yeah.
I challenged a
It is.
priest with this once.
I did too.
I did
I got
too.
kicked out.
Yeah, I got ridiculed, but that's
I got kicked out
okay.
of church.
He got mad and left, but anyway, his face got really red.
I believe in reincarnation.
I do too.
So it's in the Bible.
Your
People
face
come to
is-
Jesus and they go, it was foretold in our. So Jesus was a rabbi, and he was a rabbi, Jewish, Pharisee priest. So in the Bible, back in those days, they had the Sadducees. They were a Jewish sect that did not believe in reincarnation, and the Sadducees did not believe in, and the Pharisees did. So Jesus right now is a priest who believes in reincarnation. So his followers come to him, this is in the Bible. They say it was foretold that the great prophet Elijah would come again. Are you Elijah, come again? Jesus says, he answers their question very succinctly. He says, no, I'm not Elijah, come again. But if you want to speak to Elijah, go see John the Baptist, because he's Elijah, come again. Did he not answer their
Yes.
question?
He did, yeah.
did.
Oh,
yeah.
yes, he did.
Yeah.
I find 7 places in the Bible that scream reincarnation. So you think you have one time here, heaven or hell, pass or fail. This is what the priest said. I said, it's one time here, heaven or hell, pass or fail? He said, yes. Besides purgatory, because Catholics believe in this purgatory chance, you know. But anyway, but basically in the end, it's heaven or hell. Either you were good or bad. So I said to the priest, well, how did I get so lucky to have this body? It's healthy. I have pretty good DNA. Well, we didn't know DNA, but I have a good body. I'm not mentally retarded. I'm not deformed. I'm not. I don't have these parents that abuse me. I'm loved. So if it's my one time here, heaven or hell, pass or fail, how did I get this wonderful life with love? You know, might not have everything, but I got love. People love me, encourage me. And as opposed to someone who's a child slave, getting beaten and abused in fashions I can't even say. And getting whipped, no love, no compassion, just all misery. You entered the world, they found you in a ditch, somewhat deformed, you know, you're a hard, terrible existence, you get beaten all the time, no
So
love.
what line did you get in for that, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if my one time here is with these loving, and yours is abuse and pain, you're in pain your whole life, then how did I get so low? So the priest says, oh, only God knows this. Really? God chose my body. Yes, God chose your body, he says. And I said, oh, wow. So it's kind of like that guff thing, you know, in Catholic, they have this thing called the guff, where spirits or souls are waiting for bodies in the guff. Right. So, so I said, oh, so God spun a wheel. Sold 3,957,000,000. Come on down. Your number came up. We got a body ready for you. And they go, oh, too bad. You got the ditch. You're a slave. Heaven or hell, pass or fail. You didn't choose this body, but if you fail, don't come back home. You're going to hell. Next. And the next is a prince in the castle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
So,
Right.
you know, if
Yeah.
you didn't choose this body, we chose it for you, but in the end, we're going to judge you heaven or hell. You got the ditch, you got the castle, Peter got love. So that's when he got mad and walked out. He tried ridiculing me.
Yeah, he tried.
It didn't work. He'd say, oh, that ridiculous, and some of the kids in the class laughed. Oh, he's being an idiot. Right?
Oh.
So
You were the talk of
You're-
dinner at night,
yeah.
a lot of tables.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, right.
You know what he said?
So we're not
So,
It
this
does. Yeah.
personality that we think. I'm not Peter, you're not John, you're not Beth, you're not Joe. We're not these people. But the voice keeps reminding us that's who we are because it wants to be the head honcho. It doesn't want you to look at it like I said. When I looked at it, went, oh shit, he's aware. So it's all about being self-aware. Jesus said, know thyself. Buddha said to be enlightened is to know thyself. to be self-aware that you have a personality in this body that was programmed into you. So an analogy for this would be like the robot movies.
Yeah.
The humans invent the robots, and then they program them
whatever they want
to
to do.
clean the house, they take care of the kids, they know how to drive the car, they take them to volleyball, they tuck them in at night, they give them a kiss, they read them a book, and the robots start developing emotions and love, and they have attachment to these children, they nurture them. And then the new model comes out, and the wife says, "Oh, let's get the new model. It does more. You know, I can load my breast milk in there, and it refrigerates in the breast of the robot, and they can suckle on the robot's breast." And the husband says, "Okay, yeah, we'll get the new model." And so the company comes, they deliver a new model, they take away the old one, and then the old one is put on the scrap pile. The new robots do better. We don't need this robot. Disassemble it, throw it on the scrap pile. And then in the movies, you see them picketing robot rights. We want laws to. We feel too. You can't just dismantle us. We have a life. We have conscious. No, you're just robots. You're machines. Dismantle them. Turn off the power. Pull out the battery.
Really?
Yeah.
So this is what happens when you die. They pull out the battery, and then you're not Peter anymore, John, or any of what we think we are. We go to heaven. We do have the family reunion, but Peter's personality will be integrated into the spirit. And, eternities, Peter's just like a little pebble in the highway to eternity that goes forever. Peter's just a little bump in the road. But Peter wants to be so significant and wants to be the voice in the head. And whether it's in pain or pleasure, if it puts you in pain, keeps you tossing and turning at night, all the better. At least Peter's in charge. Your ego, your it wants to be the center of your attraction. Everyone has a story,
Right.
Everything something we claim. I have 2 kids, I have 4 grandchildren. I used to be a computer scientist, now I became a minister, now this, now that. This one abused me, this one did this one loved me. I was my grandmother's favorite, whatever the story is, Yeah, I did all this in my professional life, I did a TV show, whatever. So that becomes who we are, and it's desperately, so when you were born, you got that basket with your name on it, and then as soon as that happened, you started loading all these memories, and the basket gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then that becomes your personality. All these relationships you had, all the jobs you had, all the education, how many children you brought into the world, whatever, it defines who you are. So we're programmed just like the robot. But the robot doesn't want you to know who's behind the curtain, like in The Wizard of Oz.
Right.
Who's behind the curtain? Well, the voice in the head is behind the curtain. And it's that big scary thing, like on The Wizard of Oz, and then you find out behind the curtains this little man pulling levers. Yeah. So do you want to be the master of your reality?
Or the voice behind
Or
the
do you
curtain.
want to be the puppet on the string who's scared of the big, fearful wizard that's projected on the wall, which you find out he's no big bad wizard to begin with.
Right.
So, do you want to be the puppet to your voice, or do you want to be the master of your reality?
Yeah.
So the master is when I took control and said, wait a minute,
I'm not having a
heart attack. And there's this voice in control right now telling me I can't accomplish, I can't do. You need to go to the hospital. You're going to be ridiculed by everyone there. You're too tired to present it. All that nonsense, and then you start believing that, and the it is laughing because I'm still in control. I'll make his life so miserable that he won't think of anything else about the misery he's in right now. And so that's why we self-abuse and sabotage, because the voice doesn't want you to know that it's not the most important thing. It wants to be the most important. It knows it's here for only 70 or 80 years, and while it's here, it's going to be the head honcho and run the show.
Yeah.
Sometimes it
It's taken
doesn't.
over. It takes over.
Yeah.
Takes over.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not Peter. I'm a powerful spiritual being. I live forever. I'm not this fear. I'm not this pain. I might experience it because I'm learning from it, but
It's not.
it's not who I
It's
am.
not who I
Right,
am.
it- It doesn't define me.
Yeah, so when we
Yeah.
went into that silence, there was no voice pounding on us. And so what you felt was your God self. There was no voice pounding for a moment. You felt very tranquil, peaceful.
Yeah.
So God gave us Prozac.
Right.
Yeah, it's right inside of us.
Internal Prozac.
Yeah, it's the peace. I call it the something that is nothing.
Yeah.
Mm.
Just
true.
because
That's
it's
cool.
not
Yeah.
speaking.
It's nothing, but it's there. You can feel it.
Yes. So just
The
because it's
tranquility.
silent,
Mm.
it doesn't mean it's so.
It's
Yeah.
always there.
Yeah. So Simon and Garfunkel said it best: the sound of
Sound of
silence.
silence.
Huh.
It's an
Yeah,
awesome.
so that's
one
what
of my
they.
favorite of theirs.
So that's what that song's all about: the sound of silence,
Oh.
finding your true self. So what you felt was your God self. It's perfect.
Right.
Doesn't have any anxiety, any fear. That's your personality. Would God have a voice nagging in his head, going, "Oh my God, did I create this planet right? They're having trouble down there. Maybe I should cause a flood and start all over." You know, that didn't work out so well.
Let's not do that again.
So no, you're perfect the way
So
you
true.
are.
Yeah.
You're perfect the way you are. You're God. You got a Holy Spirit that's perfect, but the voice wants you to distract you from that because it doesn't want you to know that it's only the second best. It's not the head honcho,
Right.
and it
That's
doesn't
true.
live
That's
forever.
that devil
On your shoulder.
Yeah.
Yep, that's the devil on the shoulder beating the crap out of the angel.
Yep.
That's true.
Let the battlefield begin.
So the two keys, once again, is the net,
Mm-hmm.
keeping tabs on the voice. Oh, the voice hates this, then I'm telling you.
Oh yeah. It's going in there.
Oh, yeah.
Listen to him. Listen to him. Listen to him.
Right, right.
He's
Yeah.
loving it.
No net. No net.
No
Yes.
earpiece.
So now, this is what you can do, and this is what I do. You know, I've always had a very heavy brain and cycling all the time. And some nights, you know, you can't sleep. You toss and turn. What am I going to do about this and that? And my boss sucks, or this or that, or you know, why did he say that to me? Or you know, all these problems we have. And you know, I was always there for her when it came time for me to receive. Nobody was there for me. I've always given all my, you know, and then you're tossing and turning or whatever it may be. And now you can just lay down and go to your life force and go to your lungs and just breathe that in and then feel who you are. And then I go, oh yeah, I'm not Peter. I'm immortal. I'm God. I'm not separate, and I'm here learning and expanding the universe. That's all I'm doing here, giving the universe purpose. And I'm not this person, and I'm not what they told me I was. And then you could just breathe easy, and the voice is going to stop, and then you're going to fall right asleep because you realize I'm not the voice.
Right.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
That's
is.
a true gift, man.
Heck yeah.
Everyone I lay this
Yeah.
on, I get good feedback.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, they're like, oh, you freed me. So I'm freeing you out of jail today.
yeah.
Your own inner voice.
Exactly.
And anything else? Do you have any other questions?
No.
No.
That's
So
awesome.
that's the thing on anxiety. You're just going
Yeah.
to take that with you to the grave.
Yeah. Exactly. That's it.
All right, so we got this recording, hopefully.
So I think
Yeah, he did. So, yeah, Beth, can you see if we got all that? I want to, if you can, send that to me. Because
Yeah.
I'm getting
That's
sick
good
of saying the
material.
same things all the time. Then I
Yeah.
can say, go to the recording.
Yeah, man.